The old city of Luxembourg is located at the confluence of the Alzette and Petrucci rivers, on a very steep, rocky outcrop, which is somewhat of a natural fortification that only needed to be completed on the west side. Due to its exceptional strategic position, the city of Luxembourg was one of the largest fortresses of modern Europe, which was constantly strengthened and reinforced as it passed successively into the hands of the great European powers. Originally, the city of Luxembourg comprised only a small fort, which is the castle, built shortly after the middle of the 10th century on an
Look at
almost
that beautiful
inaccessible
structure.
rock.
This is
In the
after
12th
Roosevelt.
century, the settlement that
Roosevelt.
developed near the castle
Yeah.
was protected by a
That
stone
building.
fortification wall,
That beautiful building.
which was
I
extended
don't know.
in 14th
I think
and
it's a church.
15th centuries. In 1443, the city was taken by the troops of the Burgundy. Through inheritance, it passed to the Habsburgs and became Spanish until 1684. During this period, the site was transformed into a veritable fort. After the conquest by King Louis XIV, Vauban extended and reinforced the fortifications. In the 18th century, the Austrians continued his work and created the Gibraltar of the North. After the Congress of Vienna, the Prussians created new military structures until this dismantling was decided in 1867. Following the Treaty of London in 1867, the majority of the fortifications were demolished, but many vestiges representative of all these eras remain, of which a number of gates, forts, bastions, redoubts, and casemates. The city also retains the layout of its streets and many public buildings, important testimony of its origins and its development since the 10th century. Inside and at the foot of the ramparts, quarters where people lived and engaged in trades of crafts developed. They also kept places of worship, such as the Church of the Saint Michel, now a veritable museum of sacred art, or the Church of Saint Nicholas, subsequently transferred to the sanctuary of the Jesuits. The present cathedral. The ancient abbey of Neumünster is a landmark in the borough of Grund. In the upper town, in the shadow of the walls, aristocratic families and major religious communities built their mansions called shelters to be close to the administrations and official institutions. The old quarters still bear the imprint of their former inhabitants and their activities. Despite of the dismantling of the fortress, the fortifications, and the old quarters, today the city of historical, a symbol of prime importance, it is an astounding example of a fortified European city and host to an exceptional variety of military vestiges, illustrating a long period of Western history. The city of Luxembourg played a significant role in European history for several centuries. It preserves major remains of its impressive fortifications and its old quarters in an exceptional natural setting. Despite the many assaults from the 15th to the 18th century and the systematic dismantling in the late 19th century, the old quarters and fortifications of the city of Luxembourg enable the complete representation of its historical significance as a fortress and historic city. Bastions and other fortifications still characterize the site of the city. Even if they have lost all military significance, inside the ramparts, the narrow streets recall the minimal housing conditions of the medieval urban fabric. The authenticity of the old quarters and of the fortifications remains high. The massive defensive structures, by their very nature, have defied any significant changes in their shape or their materials, apart from the disappearance of certain defensive elements destroyed during the years following 1867. The largest part of the plan of the city has survived, which shows how the civil constructions were forced to comply with a plan imposed by the requirements of the defense and war. From the 19th century, several bastions were integrated as picturesque elements in urban projects. The dismantling of large sections of its defensive walls allowed the city to develop, and old quarters have thus been preserved, although many buildings had to be reassigned. Some houses have become administrative buildings or museums, but their appearance has not changed. Several elements of the fortifications buried in the 19th century have been cleared and restored. The protection of properties belonging either the state or the city of Luxembourg or individuals is governed primarily by the law of 18 July 1983 relating to the conservation and protection of national sites and monuments. This law imposes significant restriction on owners and occupiers of protected sites and buildings. The implementation of the legislation is the responsibility of the Military of Culture, Department of National Sites and Monuments. The vestiges of ancient fortifications are the property of the state, who ensures their ongoing maintenance. The old quarters are considered by the City of Luxembourg as protected areas. In addition, many buildings are classified as national monuments or listed in the Supplementary Inventory of Historic Monuments. All operations are closely monitored both by the Department of National Monuments and Sites or Ministry of Culture and by the city to assess the physical impact on the built environment and maintain the visual coherence of the townscape. In cases where the work involves digging in the soil, archaeological observations, or, in certain cases, excavations are obligatory. The National Museum of History and Art and the City History Museum raise public awareness of the cultural and historical wealth of the property. In the same vein, the Ministry of Culture developed the Three Acorns or Acorns Museum dedicated to the fortress and its influence on the life of the city and its inhabitants. The city of Luxembourg is the capital of the country of the same name, a small, landlocked state located in northwestern Europe. The city is home to the World Heritage Site, City of Luxembourg, its old quarters and fortifications. The property was inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1994 under criterion. The old city of Luxembourg is located at the confluence of the Alzette and Petruzi rivers on a very steep, rocky outcrop. Due to its exceptional strategic position, the city of Luxembourg was one of the largest fortresses of modern Europe, which was constantly strengthened and reinforced as it passed successively into the hands of the great European powers, playing a significant role in European history of several centuries. Today, the city is a historical ensemble of prime importance, an astounding example of a fortified European city and host to an exceptional variety of military vestiges, illustrating a long period of Western history. In 2020, on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of the inscription of the site City of Luxembourg, its old quarters and fortifications, on the World Heritage List, 4 new self-guided cultural tours have been developed. The initiative was carried out by the several agencies, including Luxembourg's National Commission for cooperating with UNESCO and the City of Luxembourg. The project responds to the management goals of the site, which include raise awareness about World Heritage amongst all people, regardless of gender, religion, ethnicity, age, or abilities, promote the value of inclusive cities, and the last, reinforce the message of inclusivity and openness embedded in the UNESCO World Heritage philosophy. Because of its strategic position, Luxembourg was, from the 16th century until 1867, when its walls were dismantled, one of Europe's greatest fortified sites. It was repeatedly reinforced as it passed from one great European power to another, the Holy Roman Emperors, the House of Burgundy, the Habsburgs, the French and Spanish kings, and finally the Prussians. Until their partial demolition, the fortifications were a fine example of military architecture spanning several centuries. The new itineraries include a walking tour of the old city, a cycling tour developed in partnership with Velo, as well as two tours which are accessible for people in wheelchairs and citizens with physical and mental disabilities. The itineraries are accompanied by an illustrated audio guide, which can be accessed from the Easy.travel mobile and web application in Luxembourgish, French, German, English, Dutch, and Sign Language. The audio guide focuses on accessibility, with carefully selected approachable wording. The Luxembourg City Old Town has been a UNESCO World Heritage since 1994. Stroll along the Corniche, hailed as Europe's most beautiful balcony, and enjoy the spectacular views. Visit the romantic Grand District or the subterranean casemates carved out of the rock of the Bok promontory, which bear witness to Luxembourg's past as a heavily defended stronghold. The fortress of Luxembourg is the former fortifications of Luxembourg City, the capital of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, which were mostly dismantled beginning in 1867. The fortress was of great strategic importance for the control of the left bank of the Rhine, the Low Countries, and the border area between France and Germany. The fortifications were built gradually over 9 centuries, from soon after the city's foundation in the 10th century until 1867. By the end of the Renaissance, Luxembourg was already one of Europe's strongest fortresses, but it was the period of great construction in the 17th and 18th centuries that gave it its fearsome reputation. Due to its strategic location, it became caught up in the Europe-wide conflicts between the major powers such as the Habsburg Balliol Wars, the War of the Reunions, and the French Revolutionary Wars, and underwent changes in ownership, sieges, and major alterations as each new occupier, the Burgundians, French, Austrian, and Spanish, Habsburg, and Prussians, made their own improvements and additions. Luxembourg took pride in the flattering historical epithet of the Gibraltar of the North as a result of its alleged impregnability. By 1443, it had only been taken by surprise by Philip the Good. In 1795, the city, expecting imminent defeat and for fear of the following pillages and massacres, surrendered after a 7-month blockade and siege by the French, with most of its walls still unbridged. On this occasion, advocating to extend the Revolutionary Wars across the French borders, the French politician and engineer Lazare Carnot explained to the French House of Representatives that in taking Luxembourg, France had deprived its enemies of the best fortress in Europe after Gibraltar, and most dangerous for France, which had put any French movement across the border at risk. Thus, the surrender of Luxembourg made it possible for France to take control of the southern parts of the Low Countries and to annex them to her territory. The city's great significance for the frontier between the Second French Empire and the German Confederation led to 1866 Luxembourg crisis, almost resulting in a war between France and Prussia over possession of the German Confederation's main western fortress. The 1867 Treaty of London required Luxembourg's fortress to be torn down and for Luxembourg to be placed in perpetual neutrality, signaling the end of the city's use as a military site. Since then, the remains of the fortifications have become a major tourist attraction for the city. In 1994, the fortress remains and the city's old quarter will listed as the UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Ring, ring. Oh. See. Ano? Grabe. Ay, grabe talaga. Kung nakikita nyo, ewan ko kung nakikita nyo dito sa video, pero ang daming mga inukit sa bato. Diyos ko, habang nag-iisa ka, may mga nakikita kang mga naglulip-tulilap, yayakapan. The World Heritage UNESCO. Luxembourg's old quarters and fortifications. Ayan yung binasa ko kanina. So welcome to Luxembourg. Ah, hindi. May akyatan sa taas. Baba tayo. Okay, just don't forget kung paano bumalik. Oh. Here we go. Iikot ko kayo. Iikot ko kayo. Okay. What's in here? Yung naririnig nyo, ano yun? Mga simbahan. Kahit sa Vienna at Germany, ang dami nilang mga simbahan. Kaya, pagod. Where should we go next? Paakyat na to. So, tawid tayo. So now I come. Kailangan nating tumawid. Oh, what's in here inside? Baka mga apartments lang ata ito. Huwag tayong suot ng suot kung saan-saan Oh, wow. Okay. This is Site Judiciary. I don't know about that. So, let's go. Yes. CR, Core Constitutional Core Superior Justice. Yeah. Oh my god, I don't know if it's allowed to take. Oh, this is what? Maybe train station. But let's go somewhere. Same spirit. Oh wow. Hi. Oh my god, nasa tuktok ako ng bundok. Grabe naman dito. Nasa bundok yung mga castles.